So as a review from our last lecture, you have a hormone that is an amine or peptide based that's going to bind to the outside of the cell membrane to a signal receptor. Your signal transduction reaction will have this cyclic amplification process and then some kind of response. Whereas a steroid hormone found here on the right side is going to move through the cell membrane, through the nuclear membrane, directly into the nucleus and cause some response to happen. In this case, most likely some kind of transcription or translation event. And so these are how the hormones are different. Peptide and amines are going to bind outside of the cell membrane, and steroid are going to move through the membrane. Now what I want to do is talk about how these hormones can have multiple effects based on the cell receptors. So if a hormone, like the one we're going to talk about, epinephrine, is released because you're in a fight or flight, you may have different receptors on your cells that will react to that same hormone and have a different effect. So here's an example. Epinephrine, if you're being chased by a lion, the alpha receptors along the blood vessels to your digestive system will constrict because your body doesn't need the blood to go to the digestive system. Whereas that same hormone will react to beta receptors on skeletal muscles, causing them to dilate, to get much bigger, which would deliver more blood and oxygen to the muscles, which makes perfect sense because you're going to need more oxygen and sugar in your skeletal muscles to escape. The same is true in the liver cells. Now those liver cells are going to then bind with epinephrine, which is going to cause glycogen to be broken down into glucose, and then that would then leak into the blood. And so you now can see how you can have one hormone and then how each of those cells are going to react based on the receptors that are present. Okay, so I want to give you one specific example that's going to lead into your activity. So your activity is you're going to select a single hormone based on some kind of physical response, and you're going to do a little research. And then you'll have to tell me the target cells, you'll have to tell me how it works, you'll have to tell me a little bit about the hormone, the pathway it's on, and if it's a negative or positive feedback. Okay, so the one I want to kind of talk about is one that's always important to students, and that's, of course, stress. And it's one I've been kind of following. It appears that in my AP classes, there's a lot of stress. So these are different headlines. You've probably seen these headlines. Teens feel stressed, and many not managing well. High stress, high school. What's the balance between preparing students for college? So we know students are stressed out. Now let's talk about it. Animal companions ease the student's stress. Okay, so let's take a look at, that was 2014. That's 2015. Here's 2016. Here's 2017. Let's see what 2018, teenage girls. Here's 2019. Look, it's come back. The dogs. And now this year, what's the big stress? Why, of course, this ability of what about coronavirus and how it's affecting you. So let's take a look at how stress is affecting your hormones. Okay, so the adrenal glands are on your kidneys. They're right on top, and they respond to stress. And there's two types of stress. The first one, of course, is that short-term stress, which we call the fight or flight response. And the other one is a long-term stress response. So let's talk about the short term first. So in the short term, whatever stress, I'm being chased by a lion. There's a pop quiz. You have in your brain, you receive some kind of signal. In the hypothalamus, you have a nerve signal that takes a nerve to your spine all the way down into your adrenal glands. Now, this is just a neuron pathway. And so you get this synapse, which then causes the adrenal glands to release epinephrine or something called norepinephrine. And here's the list of things that happen. break down the glycogen, increase blood pressure, increase breathing rate. You're now metabolizing that glycogen and that sugar. You have more blood flow going to your muscles and away from your digestive and kidneys. And so this is that fight or flight. You're pretty straightforward, short-lived, very fast. But what about stress that's ongoing? So if the stress continues, then the hypothalamus will release a hormone called corticotropin-releasing hormone. The corticotropin-releasing hormone is released into the anterior pituitary, where it then targets cells in the anterior pituitary that release a adrenocortisone-trophic hormone, which is a releasing hormone that goes through the blood and goes to the adrenal glands. But now it's going to react to a different part of the adrenal glands, and it's going to produce something called corticoids. And these, as they're moving through your blood, have these effects. You're going to have breakdown of your fats, your glucose, because you're high stress, your immune system is being suppressed, your blood pressure is going to change, you're not retaining your sodium, so you're retaining water, so you're far more stress, which of course is a positive feedback because now you're not getting any kind of break. It continues to add stress, it continues to add the ACTH, it continues to release these long stress responses, which then of course everything feeds back to itself, and the only way to break that long-term stress is to actually remove the stress. Whereas on this side, this is a very short action, and so after the neurons have stopped producing, which is very quickly, that process turns off. And so that is what your project's going to be. And so let me turn towards it. So here is your project, your activity. Don't spend more than 15 to 25 minutes doing the research. You're just going to select a response from the hormone list that's below right here. And I just want you to do a quick research. Can you find its structure? Maybe a picture? Can you give me a 35-word response about what it does? And I'm going to use the tools to count. So I really want 35 words. Don't cut and paste. I don't want a paragraph. You have to identify the pathway, its stimulus cells, the target, and its response. Tell me if it's a positive or negative feedback. And if you can, what's the disease associated with this hormone? So you'll notice now that there's 3 from plants and there are 5 from mammals. Go ahead and choose any one of them. You can focus on humans. That's okay. All right. So thank you for the lectures. We will see you Wednesday for help and Friday if you need it also. All right. Have a good day.